What's up, you guys? It's Ben, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything there is related to selling on Amazon. So, for today's video, what I wanted to do is bring back Sajad, somebody that has been working with me together on Amazon for quite some time. He's actually been selling on Amazon for a lot longer than I have, and I thought it'd be a good idea to bring him back and actually speak about a few of the changes that are currently happening on Amazon, how has his sales been going on, and what his forecast for Amazon is in the future. So, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking the time out. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to start. Ben, thanks for having me on again.
Perfect. So let's get straight to it. So right now, first of all, we're out of lockdown, as you can see from my haircut, and hopefully you got to go outside as well.
Yeah.
How have your sort of Amazon experience been so far this year? Now that lockdown is passed, and now that more and more people are actually starting to shop back onto the high street again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good question. I still have to do my haircut. That's why I can't happen. So I'll get around to it this week. Now, I think it's too early to say. I was watching
Okay.
the news yesterday with regards to footfalls, and I think it's very tricky because I personally believe there will be a bit of obviously a bounce back in brick and mortar, but I think that will be temporary. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the reasons some of these shops are still open is because they're artificially kind of supported by the government,
Yeah.
which I think will change. What I found when we went into lockdown last year is there were some niches of mine that were doing better, some niches that were doing worse. For example, I was very focused in the last kind of 2, 3 years on eco-friendly products,
Yeah.
but nobody cared about that when the first lockdown happened. However, in some of my other niches, for example, stationery and office supplies, I saw a massive uptick once lockdown hit, and
Yeah.
that kind of continued. Now
Yeah.
it's hard to say. Obviously, we're going into summer at the moment, and obviously gardening supplies, stuff like that, will all do really well. But it's hard to say whether people will prefer to go out into shops and get that stuff, or whether they'll still prefer the convenience of online. So I
Yeah.
think probably in about 3 or 4 weeks, we'll both know in
Yeah.
terms of sales which way things are going. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what you think about that.
For me, it's quite interesting because last year, as we were leading up to lockdown, I was kind of looking at the sales and they were increasing quite tremendously. And now we're working kind of in contrast to the high street, at least for my own opinion, because as businesses were closing down, the sales of Amazon sellers usually, and my students as well, has gone up. Whereas now it's kind of exactly the other way around. They're kind of starting to slow down a little bit. More people are going outside, in my opinion. The weather is slowly starting to get better. And we spoke about how much simple things like the weather impact Amazon FBA sales. So I feel like they're going to start leveling out soon. And we're going to go back to the new normal. Now, whether that new normal is going to be higher than earlier before or the same, who knows, to be completely honest. But I do believe people have they are going to change their behaviors somewhat. More and more people are now looking. I've been reading on the news about working from home at least a couple of days a week. People are actually demanding it. Something that didn't really happen before. People are, exercising outdoors as opposed to just going to the gym all the time. People are changing their way of living, to be completely honest, and shopping, in my opinion, is part of it. So it really depends. It really depends. I personally see Amazon increasing sales by about, I'd say 15, 20% this year to what their baseline usually is, and continuing to do so over the next few years. But who knows? And that kind of brings me on to my next question as well, as to what do you think the forecast is for Amazon this year and in the next few years, with so many new warehouses opening up, and I see Amazon trucks everywhere now. Do you still can see the sales going up over the next few years?
Yeah, but for another reason actually,
Oh, okay.
and it's not new sellers coming on and simply more customers. What I think is going to happen is some of these stores that had their own websites
Yep.
and they were selling brick and mortar, and then they obviously had to expand their online business model.
Yep.
A lot of them you might know yourself because some of them we order from, especially some variety stores, vegetarian or
Yep.
vegan. A
Yep.
lot of them have set up shop now on Amazon,
Yep.
and by doing that, what they're also doing is they're bringing a lot of their customers from their website onto Amazon, and they're using Amazon's FBA model
Right.
because even for them, it might be a lot simpler, even if it hits them on the profit margin.
Yeah,
So you're getting all of these extra customers now also coming onto Amazon. And I think in the next 6 to 12 months, that will be the big push because, as you mentioned yourself, if people are demanding to work from home and it's more efficient
yeah,
and the companies actually save money themselves by doing it, that's the way we're going to go.
yeah,
Like the human beings and companies in general, they will always take the path, I think, of least resistance and the path that is more efficient. That's the
yeah.
natural way things will go.
Not necessarily
Um,
the best way, but yes, absolutely.
not the best when it comes to employment rates, which
Yeah,
again we've not seen unemployment take as big a hit as yet. I personally think the pain is to come, but
yeah.
it'll probably be towards the end of this year and early next year when we actually see the effects on the economy. Not right now because we're artificially supported by the government.
Yeah, I find that interesting and kind of in a slight contrast because I have actually seen that happen as well. However, I'm also thinking, is that potentially the best idea for these businesses? Because yes, you're going onto Amazon, a place that has tons of customers already. However, what Amazon does do quite well is they promote themselves over your brand completely. So, you have to, in my opinion, if I was running like a small vegan shop or something like that, I would really focus on trying to push my own brand, whether it's with insert cards or follow up emails or anything like that, because you still want to have your identity on these products. We kind of really get molded all into one on Amazon if we're not too careful, if that makes sense. So I find it quite interesting how a lot of people are moving on to Amazon, but there are some businesses that are saying, hold up, if I move on to Amazon, I'm just becoming another Amazon FBA seller and I don't have my own identity anymore. Customers do not relate to me anymore. They don't know who I am anymore. I'm just selling products and that's not exactly what they want. And that kind of segues me into my next question, really, as to, a lot of people, very new sellers at the moment, they kind of, from my experience and from what I've been seeing, is they don't really know where to go. Is it just, speaking to suppliers, getting the best possible product and basically selling anything on Amazon? Or would you advise them to potentially think about building a brand, building a name, potentially a website? Because I know you've done both. What's kind of your advice, given that you've done it for quite some time?
Easy answer, both. um,
Okay,
Long answer is right. So the way I would look at it in terms of actually building a brand is, I think, it's a spectrum. So a
right.
spectrum, it ranges from just selling a couple of products because they'll make you money to the other end where you're building some massive brand which has its own value.
Yeah,
And the kind of thing that I find horrific sometimes is, I love watching Dragons Den. I don't know if you like it, but they've just started a new season. I think they're on week 2. For any entrepreneurs, I think it's very, very important you
yeah.
watch that because it's more interesting not only what these businesses are coming up with in terms of ideas, but how the dragons kind of respond.
Hmm.
And always when they're responding, there's two things they care about. It's return on their money
Yeah,
and return on time. So a
yeah,
lot of the time they will say, I'm going to have to spend too much time coaching you and mentoring you, and I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to invest. Or for a 1% share, it's not worth it for me.
yeah,
But the thing I find kind of horrific is you get some people coming onto Dragons Den, and they've already spent 200 or 300,000 pounds developing their brand, developing their idea, getting professional designs, professional videos, only to take it to market and then realize that
with
nobody cares
zero
about.
sales.
Yeah, literally zero, or worse, they're
Yeah,
at a massive loss
yeah,
and they owe their families, friends, investors a lot of money. So
yeah,
it's scary. So obviously they come to Dragons then, desperate then,
yeah,
to get some money basically, and for somebody to sort out their issue. So I think that's the spectrum, and you have to be somewhere in the middle where you have to understand that to get the ball rolling, you won't know for 100% sure which one of your products will do well. And I'm sure, Ben, you have that same experience. You'll launch 10 and
yeah,
3 or 4 will do really well, 3 or 4 okay, 2 or 3 you have to drop because they're not doing too well.
yeah,
But you can't predict that beforehand. So I think you need to get the ball rolling and then kind of funnel that into developing your brand around some of the products that are doing best. Honestly, my experience, that would be the best way to do it rather than have the vision beforehand, which I
yeah.
know a lot of people prefer. But that's just me personally.
Yeah, no, to be completely honest, I agree. And when I started off, the first year I did only selling on Amazon and so on, and then I kind of started thinking, okay, maybe developing my own brand would be a good idea because then you bring your own identity, you start collating mails and all of that sort of stuff. But once you actually get into the nitty gritty of it, which a lot of new students just don't even think about, there's a lot more work that goes into building a brand than people realize. First of all, you have to build out the name and you have to get people to know what you are. Work on the social media links pretty much extensively every single day. There is not just a lot of money that goes into it, but so much time that goes into building out your own name, because at the end of the day, with Amazon, the customers are already there, whereas with your own brand, nobody knows what you are. So you're going to have to start that Instagram channel, you're going to have to start that YouTube channel, potentially you're going to have to start off Google SEO, Facebook SEO. There's going to be a lot to learn and a lot to do. So
Yeah.
money side of things is one thing, but even if you're clever about it and you don't want to spend too much money, that you can do a lot, but those things will take up a lot of time as well. And the problem is with a lot of our new students is that they don't have that much time. At the end of the day, they may have kids, they may have 9 to 5s, they may have various other things to do. So they're looking for potentially a passive income that will give them source of income that doesn't need that much work. And I think building a brand is completely the opposite of that. It's not really passive. I mean, I can make an argument that Amazon FBA is not really passive once you get past a certain level, but it's still manageable on your own. Whereas building a brand, from my friends' experience and stuff, they say, you end up doing 4 or 5 people's jobs at one point, and then you have to start employing people. Otherwise, you're just going to stress the hell out and quit completely. So it's something really to consider, because on the nutshell, yes, it sounds great. You have your own brand and stuff, but really, really think about it if it's the right thing to do, because there are so many opportunities out there to make money, and building your own company, building your own business and your own products from scratch may not necessarily be the best one. We live in a different age now where people make money selling various things, NFTs and all of these things I'm hearing about right now that I still can't even figure out. So yeah, it's, you really have to weigh up the pros and cons of both, in my personal opinion. Completely moving on to the next part. Right now, we've had Suez Canal issues, we've had COVID, we've had Brexit. I mean, there's just so much going on and on and on. And I don't know about you, but I've experienced so many problems with shipping. Either the shipping prices increased, either the shipping times have increased from, going from 4 to 6 weeks to 8, 12 weeks. I mean, I've got a shipment right now that's been 4.5 months still stuck. I've got no idea where. How have you found the shipments, and have you had any problems so far? And if so, is there any advice that I haven't given to my students yet?
Okay. So yeah, a couple of things I might be able to add. I'm not sure if you've
Yes.
covered it on your channel already. But first of all, just the end of the last question, one thing I'll just add that
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
find funny is, so we've done 7 figures on Amazon, but when you do your product research and you're looking at products to sell, you'll see there are a lot of sellers on Amazon clearly doing 7 figures, because we can see it
Yeah,
from the data, right?
yeah.
Especially a lot of Chinese sellers, no disrespect to them. So they're all doing well over 7 figures. They're selling a few products. A lot of the time it's electronic products. Do you remember the brand names of any of these Chinese sellers? Not a one, right?
Not one.
Not a
They're
one.
not
They're just
exactly best at building a brand, or marketing or videos or editing or images. Not the most
nothing.
graphic design people. Yeah,
What does the data show you? What are the figures they're doing?
decent, decent.
Right.
But
And
then again, that being said, sales, yes. Profit, who knows?
true, but a lot of them who have been selling for a long, long time, they
Yeah,
wouldn't keep doing it unless they were making massive profit.
that's
And
true.
obviously, from the supply side, they're going to be getting,
Yep,
very, very good prices as well.
yep,
So, what is my point there? My point is, you can overdo the brand thing and overthink it. For example, to register your brand here in the UK, it could take you half an hour.
yep,
Yes, potentially to do all of the other steps in social media, if you choose to do that,
yep,
will take a lot longer. But that's something in terms of a vision you can do later down the road. You do
yep,
not need to do that before setting up your Amazon seller account and
yep,
starting to sell products. So I just thought I'd add that. Now,
yep.
in terms of shipping, yes, for everybody, it's been a nightmare. But a couple of things. First of all, obviously everybody's experiencing this, so
Yeah.
that's important to note as well. So the delays we have, everybody else will have the same delays, and if there are knock-on additional costs we have to add to the consumer,
Yeah.
everybody has to do that.
Yeah.
But the thing I found, and again this will come a little bit with experience as well, is now that you know you're having these issues and you've got new orders that you need to arrange, I think it's important the way you actually pay your suppliers. That's, for me, that's actually changed.
Okay.
So previously, when I'm ordering and they're manufacturing from scratch, you might be putting down a deposit, for example, of 30 or 40%,
Hmm.
and they might promise you a lead time.
Yeah.
Now, what I've found has really kind of um, helped in terms of honing down on what they're able to promise is by reducing the deposit and actually putting in the contract directly. For example, let's say you're doing trade assurance on Alibaba,
Right.
you actually put a limit time in there, because the issue isn't necessarily the shipping, it's also the fact that they're getting so many orders from
Yeah.
so many people and there's a backlog throughout the world. So where is your order and where is your priority with that same supplier compared to all of the other US sellers and all of the other companies? It might be much further down.
Yeah.
How do you bring that priority higher up?
Yeah.
The couple of ways to do it I found is not to pay them too much upfront,
Okay.
especially if they're reliable, to
Yeah.
actually put a lower amount in terms of deposit, maybe only 10 or 15% if they're happy to go with
Yeah.
that. And the other way is in the contract to make it very, very clear, to get them to agree to a certain time. So within 10 days, it will be ready. So a certain date and time, and put that in the contract.
What do you do then if they don't meet that? Because that happened to me.
Sure. If they're not able to do that, or sorry, you mean if they've agreed it
If they
already?
agreed and they say whatever nonsense excuse they give to you that hey, materials haven't come in time or whatever.
Okay, no problem. Well, I mean, there's not much you can do because they're obviously making your product. What you can do then is perhaps renegotiate. So I've had an experience where they actually gave me a partial refund
Okay.
because of this.
Yeah.
The other the other option is obviously to rearrange the contract and add that extra time, but
Yeah.
just to see again if they can do a discount on the product if possible.
Okay.
If you need to, you can obviously escalate the issue and open a dispute with Alibaba. But again, in my experience, that's it does work. It does work. You eventually do get through that way as well, but they're not great. It's not like opening a case on Amazon, for
Yeah.
example. Alibaba are not great when it comes to this. So it is very, very tricky. But I'm just talking there about the side of things when it comes to manufacturer to the
Yeah.
point where they actually ship your product.
Yeah.
Now, what to do after they ship the
Yeah.
product? I'm still constantly advising new beginners, don't go with sea shipping at all if you're a brand new beginner. Now, if
Okay.
you're already selling on Amazon, you've got sea ship products, what else can you do? Once everything is shipped, you cannot physically speed up
Yeah.
that shipment coming to the UK. There's nothing else you can do about that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But an additional point I was make now, you've got some products that are stuck at the moment.
Yeah.
The additional point I would make is when it comes to cash flow, you may have to unfortunately consider running out of stock even
Yeah.
for a few products if it makes sense to put that cash towards a product with higher turnover that
Yeah.
you can air, for example, to the UK faster. Now, these are the challenges every entrepreneur goes through, whether we've got Brexit, shipping issues, or whether we don't have them. It's for
Yeah.
you to pivot and manage where your cash flow is going and where your time is going.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
That's
And there's
that's
nothing
that,
really we can do about that.
yeah, no, that's a very, very interesting point. To be completely honest, yes, what I found with Alibaba is, in my opinion, a little bit better than Amazon, but they're a lot slower in helping you with your cases. They actually do provide you a decent answer, not a robotic, scripted answer, so to speak. In my experience, that is. How that being said, I haven't opened that many disputes. What I found with because I have done full payment, and then I've also done the 20-30% deposit up front, and then so on and so forth. The 25% deposit, in my opinion, does help with cash flow because effectively you don't pay for the order until a bit later. So as a new seller, when cash is really low and then you're strapped on for cash, so to speak, it does help. That being said, I haven't noticed that much difference with suppliers still messing you around and basically saying the materials are not there and so on and so forth. Please modify the order and so on. And then once you do modify the order, they may still take longer. And then if you do escalate that to Alibaba, Alibaba will take at least a week to come back to you. And then you realize you're 2 months in and the order still hasn't been shipped out effectively, which is not amazing. But in my personal experience, there's not much that we could have done. I focus more on just kind of building that relationship, building the honesty. To be completely honest, for the first time ever, you know how we get Chinese suppliers to send us gifts for Christmas and stuff like that. Well, I have done exactly the same thing for them, Chinese New Year, and those little things, them are, saying, oh, thank you so much for sending this over to me, blah 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 blah. I feel like you need to get on their good side. You need to become a little bit friendly, because at the end of the day, yes, they're 7,000 miles away, but they're still people. They're still, human, so to speak. Just because we can't see them, we still work on relationships. We still work on emotions and so on. So by getting onto their good side, I found that some of my best suppliers, so to speak, don't have as many of those issues, especially the ones that I've been working for quite some time, and I'm good at paying on time and they're good at sending the products on time. It's
Yes.
usually the new suppliers that I have never ever dealt with before and I haven't established that relationship that really have those lead time issues and shipping and stuff. And before I move on to the next subject, you said with the new sellers right now, you would only recommend most likely, air shipping and stuff because of the obvious issues that we're currently having. That really limits new sellers' product choice to go for, and also potentially increases their costs. Um, would you still, even though that's the case, you would still recommend air shipping and increase those prices effectively to the end customer?
100%. And there's other reasons as well. So think about it as a new seller. There's already a lot of complexity
Yeah,
involved in the business and a lot to learn. And also, new sellers, they're making an upfront investment, and it's
yeah,
important that they see some proof of sales and some return on their investment as soon as
right.
possible. Having on the first order for them to wait months and months once the money's already tied up, and a lot of new beginners, some of them watching right now may only have 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 pounds to
Yeah,
invest in their first product. Having to wait a long time to see a return on that is not easy in
yeah,
terms of confidence. And even if it's just the first product, and then for the second one, they started to get the ball rolling, they're seeing sales, they've proved the business concept to themselves, then you
yeah,
can go for a C-ship product. You
yeah.
can still absolutely, and I'm definitely proof of that, you can absolutely make good margins on airship products. You
Okay.
just have to do your research. If one supplier is not working for you or he's taking too long, that's not the only supplier there is.
Yeah, yeah,
Potentially, even for existing products, if you have a supplier messing you around, you are absolutely allowed to go and look for new suppliers. That's
yeah,
not the only one.
yeah.
If you
No,
develop a good
absolutely.
relationship and they're being reliable, that's fine. But you can still change suppliers. You can
Yeah,
change products. You can drop products. It's a flexible business. That's the
yeah,
beauty about this.
yeah. And just before we kind of move on to the next subject, the last thing I wanted to add is basically when dealing with suppliers, if they're good suppliers, so to speak, and sometimes you may have to think outside of the box. Well, if you ordered 1,000 units and they still haven't been shipped out yet, but they're
Yeah.
selling quite well, why not airship part of it, 200, 300 units of it, and therefore get those products in as quickly as possible? Yes, you will be making less profit, but some profit is better than no profit. You're not going to lose the sales rank. You're still going to be selling. You're still going to be getting reviews, and you're still going to be seeing something at the end of the day. So people, sometimes I find students are really focused on the end result, which is the profit, which is the right thing to do, but they're missing the bigger picture. At the end of the day, even lower profit is better than just being out of stock. And you're right in saying, when you're just starting off and as a new student, you're really looking for some sort of positive confirmation. You're looking for something, and waiting for 2-3 months after you just spend £2,000 of your hard-earned cash, from working a 9 to 5, it gets stressful. You start doubting yourself. Is this the right thing to do? Was I stupid? Especially if friends and family say that to you constantly, which is what happened with me,
Sure.
and you as well. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. So I now thinking about it again, I think air shipping does help, not necessarily from a financial perspective, but I think it helps from a mental perspective and gives you that motivation to continue going forward, so to speak. So now on to the next part. So a lot of new students, especially for my mentorship, they're starting off on extremely low budgets,
Yeah.
500 to £1,000. And in my personal opinion, if you want to do it properly, you need to have a little bit more. Yes, it's possible. Yes, you can do it, but you're better off saving up, building up that budget, so to speak, and kind of starting off properly, putting in the necessary funds. How would you recommend people save up money? Like how did you do it? Because some people are really strapped for cash. Are there any tips or bits of advice that you could give?
Yeah, sure. I think I would probably say a couple of things. So the first of all, with regards to the minimum budget, it's a common question you get asked. It's a
Yeah,
question I get asked all the time, and in my opinion, it's a irrelevant question. The reason it's irrelevant is because your budget might be 1,000 today,
yeah,
but in 6 months it might have changed. In a year
yeah,
it might have changed because you'll be earning money from somewhere else anyway, or you might
yeah,
need that money to be used elsewhere. So if you have a limited budget and you have people on YouTube saying with £800 you can't successfully launch and maintain stock, well, so what? Why don't you actually get the train moving and start and learn how the business works with that money? Even if you go out of stock,
yeah,
that's still, you're in a better place in 2 months' time than you were when you first started because you know everything about the business. You've already made some sales. You know how to list the product. You know how to research, etc.
yeah,
That's you making a movement towards your goals as an
yeah,
entrepreneur, right? And with this business, there's a massive kind of give up rate. A lot of people start it and then they just give up.
yeah.
So don't wait until the perfect time when you've got a perfect amount of money. I would go further to say, because I had a higher budget.
Hmm.
So I had a few thousand, I can't remember the exact amount, but I had a few thousand when I first started and I was earning good income anyway. Um, it's actually sometimes worse if you have 10,000 cash ready sitting in front of you when you start this business. The reason it's worse is you're likely to make more errors and more
Yeah,
mistakes. You're likely to overpay for your product. You're likely to order too much stock when you didn't need to. You also won't find those efficiencies in a business that you actually find when you're tight.
yeah,
So actually, people assume, oh, this guy's got 10,000, he's got much better chance, and this guy's got 1,000. As no, think of it over a 12-month time frame, not
yeah,
immediately. Who's got the better chance?
yeah.
So
No,
that's one thing I would say.
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think people that start off on a big budget, they come out of the business entrepreneur mindset, which is basically trying to squeeze as much out of your money as possible, trying to stretch as much out of your money as possible. And if you're starting off with £10,000, people, all of a sudden won't negotiate as much. They won't care about who sticks on the barcodes. They won't care on how the shipping is, whether it's air shipping or truck shipping or sea shipping, whatever. They're not going to negotiate or potentially speak to freight forwarders themselves. They just want to sell and see something potentially. And
Yeah,
I completely agree. There is too low of a budget. I think £500 maybe you should save up, but then there is too much of a budget as well, which a lot of people don't really talk about. They just say, oh yeah, the more the better, effectively. And sometimes I don't think that necessarily is the case because remember, at the end of the day, we are running a business. We want to do it long term, and you need to get the right mindset in, which is what you spoke a lot about in your course as well, as having the right business mindset. Because we are running a business. Yes, it's all online. Yes, we don't have a physical store, but we still deal with issues. We still have the stress and the problems and the cash flow issues that every business owner has at some point,
yeah,
effectively.
yeah.
So
I,
yeah. So with that being said, now I've been selling on Amazon for 3 years. You've been selling for I don't know 5, 6 years. Has Amazon, as the customer base increased, has Amazon got harder, more competitive? Any thoughts on that at all?
yeah, sure. But just before, there was a second
Yes.
part to the question you had before.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I
Sorry.
think, yeah, no problem. I think it's an important one as well because again, I think there's sometimes misinformation online and you hear things like, for example, a lot of people watching will have mortgages. For example, you have a mortgage, I have mortgages to pay as well. And sometimes the advice is clear all of your debt. You shouldn't take on any more debt and stuff like
Hmm.
that, right? I think this is really bad advice.
Yeah.
So some of the best decisions I've made and some of the best improvements I've made in my businesses are using credit.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying if you're brand new, run out and get loans and credit cards or anything like that.
Yeah.
But understand that all the businesses you see around you, they're all built up on credit.
Yeah.
Also, that doesn't necessarily mean taking up new debt. Renegotiate your current debt. If
Yeah.
you've got a mortgage and you've got 5 years left, call them and say, actually, if I spread it over 20 years, what will my repayments be then? Instead of 1,000 a month, it might drop down to 200, 300 a month. You've suddenly saved yourself £700 that you can use immediately now
Yeah.
on a business. Whereas a mortgage is a much more longer term thing, and rates are as low as they've ever been
Yeah.
when it comes to credit.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds strange, but I'm just telling you the honest truth. A lot of people you see doing 6, 7, and going into 8 figures, they all leverage debt and
Yeah.
credit to
Yeah.
build their businesses. There's no harm in, as a beginner, getting into that mindset now, because if you make mistakes along the way, you're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn how to use credit appropriately.
Yeah.
No harm in getting a little credit card with £300 or £500 on it, using that to pay for stuff
Yeah.
and learning from there,
Yeah.
rather than kind of getting that later down the line, because you will make mistakes in any business regardless. Better you make the mistakes now when you're small scale rather than when you're large scale.
Yeah. I think credit and sort of being in debt effectively is a two-edged sword. I think you really have to speak to the right person who will know how to use it, because some people can really abuse it effectively and just see it as free
Of course.
money, and don't care about the interest rates or anything like that. And other people will actually not only get the funds that they need at the very beginning, but also it gives them that push to pay it off as quickly as possible, to renegotiate a better rate and stuff, because you have that sort of stick getting up to your back, like, okay, you need to pay back as that, you need to work. It gives you that motivation to do the product research, to speak to suppliers, and to do various other things. Whereas if you're playing with your own house money, so to speak, you may not have that. However, that being said, debt is something that I personally don't really recommend, because I don't know each student well enough, because some people can really, really abuse it and then get into a lot of trouble. And losing your own money is one thing, but then losing somebody else's money, bad things happen.
Oh, yeah.
So you really, really have to be careful.
Yeah.
um Anything else to add with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. But just on that, remember, we are in a debt-based society.
Yeah.
Savings don't exist anymore. You don't get anything on your money if you put it in a bank. With
Yeah.
inflation, you're actually losing. So I guess the point I'm making is just to understand how the system works. It doesn't matter if it's Amazon or something else.
Yeah.
I think everybody watching, you should be thinking return on investment. If
Yeah.
I invest this in whatever I do, what can I potentially get back? And because it's a debt-based society right now,
Yeah.
you can't avoid debt altogether. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
pay off your bills and stuff like that, but especially if you're trying to scale up a business, you
Yeah.
need financing. That's normal. So there's
Yeah.
no harm in learning that beforehand on a very small scale. I'm talking borrowing £10,
Yeah.
£20. It's
Yeah.
good to learn that now rather than have to learn it all later down the line, where you can make mistakes that are much more damaging. Like you said,
Yeah.
suddenly taking debt for the first time and suddenly taking 200,000 when you've never taken on any
Yeah.
debt before. That's worse than learning with 100, learning with 500, and moving up from there.
Yeah.
But that gets a very bad name, and I just wanted to just make sure people understand that it's quite important, financing, when it comes to businesses.
I feel like we should do another separate video just on
Yeah,
business
it's a big
financing,
topic.
entrepreneurial mindset, so to speak. But let's kind of move on back onto Amazon. So, to my original question, has Amazon has it become more difficult for you?
Yeah, good question. I think the answer is going to be yes and no, of course,
Okay.
but let me kind of elaborate on that. I think the good things are Amazon has actually clamped down on a lot of shady stuff. I
Yes.
think what's happened with that is it's made it a more even playing field. So
Yeah.
on my channel, a recent video I did, I answered the question, with new sellers, do you have a massive disadvantage compared to somebody like you and me who's been selling for a while and has a brand on Amazon?
Yeah.
And I was trying to make the point that for any new product, your honeymoon period for that product is exactly the same
Yeah.
as when I launch a product. And I don't think a lot of beginners are aware of that.
Yeah.
Yes, the experience we have is different, but
Yeah.
otherwise it's exactly the same. And I feel like the playing field it feels more even to me than it
Yeah.
did a few years ago when there was just too much shady stuff going on.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of competitive nature, it's always been competitive. I don't think that's changed.
Hmm.
But remember, there's a lot more demand as well, given
Yeah.
what's going on in the world. So the honest answer, if I'm thinking about the competition, the barriers for entry, the profit margins, and I
Yeah.
take it all together, I would say in the last 5 years, there's no difference. If you
Yeah.
take everything and you kind of average it out, it's probably about the same, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because yeah, but then again, I see people complaining about competition all the time, that all niches are saturated and stuff like that. And I don't believe in it at all, because at the end of the day, new products come out all the time. And if
Yep.
new products come out all the time, there's new opportunity for you to pick up on all the time as well. And the benefit of Amazon is that their customer base is continuing to grow. So if you're looking for excuses, you're going to find excuses. It's as simple as that. There will
100%.
always be excuses for you, whether it's the Chinese suppliers, the Chinese sellers, competition, Amazon themselves, and so on and so forth. And this is how a lot of people get a lot of clicks on their videos, by saying, Amazon FBA is dead, you should do this instead, and oh, it's too competitive, and so on and so forth. But it's possible. Me and you are doing it. A lot of our students are doing it. A lot of people that sign up to your course are doing it as well. It's possible. It is possible, regardless of how competitive. And even if it is competitive, that's not the mindset you should have. You should be, okay, you need to be competitive as well. You need to be beating the competition. How can you improve your listing? How can you improve your images? How can you improve your product itself, to compete with the rest? Because at the end of the day, in somewhat, I agree. I think competition is good, because then it keeps you on your toes. It makes you a better seller long term. Not just on Amazon, but on pretty much anything business related, so to speak. You kind of want that push from the competition, so to speak.
I
Anything?
would go
Yeah.
I would go more than that, mate, and just say it's not only the competition that keeps you on your toes. The reason that there's competition is the reason people are making money.
Yeah.
Any business where you see competition, it means there's stuff happening there. There's an opportunity there. If there's no competition, perhaps there's no demand then for in that
Yeah.
particular niche for products. There's no
Yeah.
sales to be made. You want competition.
Absolutely.
The highest competition environments on Amazon, which are mostly the high tech kind of products, everyday tech products, they're the ones with the most money in
Yeah.
any particular niche. There might be 50 million in sales in one niche per month,
Yeah.
in just and that's spread out between 20 sellers.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Competition mean there's is a good thing. It means there's money to be made.
Yeah.
So don't shy away from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then the last question for today, and kind of hopefully wrap this thing up. What's your opinion? What's your advice for people that have been selling for quite a bit now? Because I've got a few students now. When they want to take that next step, that leap of faith, so to speak, and go into Amazon full time. You had to do it. I know that you went from part time to kind of part time at your own job, and then full time on Amazon. I was kicked out of my own job, so I was pushed into this. Um, when do you know that right now is the right time for you to jump into Amazon FBA full time?
Yeah, no worries. A difficult question, but for me, again, it just all boils down to mindset. I think that's what
Okay.
being an entrepreneur is all about. And if you can protect your mindset, I think that really helps. So, for
Yeah.
example, let's say you're doing well on Amazon and you're making even more than you are from your 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
I would say you still remain at your job
Yeah.
until you develop that kind of buffer. So let's say you save up 10, 15, 20,000 and you've got 6 months worth of earnings. You'll be in a much better position in terms of your mindset if you then jump into Amazon full time or other businesses, building up your brand, etc. That will be better than you've just now made the same amount of money, because what happens then is you will make poor financial decisions
Yeah.
because you don't want to make decisions in your business out of fear
Yeah. Yeah.
and being frightened about something.
Yeah.
That's when you don't make good business decisions. You make your best ones when you make them without having to actually worry about money, if that makes sense. And you're willing to use money as a tool. I'm not talked about debt just before, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Money is just a tool. Debt is just a tool to make even more money. That's
Yeah.
how eventually most entrepreneurs, that's what they will realize
Yeah.
along the journey. And the other thing I would say is, in terms of time invested, this is where it gets a bit tricky because 9 to 5s can be very, very draining. I definitely experienced that. So sometimes actually having a little bit of that push and that fear is a good thing because it
Yeah.
makes you work harder on your business. So for each individual person, I think it's difficult because there's a lot of people with large families and a lot of other kind of uh, financial things that they have to worry about, bills and stuff like that. But that's generally what I would say. I would say reduce slowly if you
Yeah.
can to
Yeah.
part time. Make sure you've got a buffer in terms of savings from your Amazon business, because remember, you need to constantly reinvest in your
Yep.
business, of course.
Yep.
And then just understand that eventually you will have to take the jump. Don't
Yeah.
just wait until you've got hundreds of thousands in the bank before you take the jump, because remember, that extra time you spend, you could be building your businesses a
Yeah.
lot faster. But with your 9 to 5, you're not going to make any more money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, perfectly. I completely agree. I think the right way for me to was when I realized that the time spent at work is not as valuable and not as profitable effectively as the time spent at home on Amazon FBA. Is just like, how much money am I leaving on the table by doing my 9 to 5? Because there will be a point, like you said yourself, that you will be earning more than in your 9 to 5 job. And you're literally, every single day that goes by and you still stay at the 9 to 5 job that most likely you hate, is you're leaving money on the table because you don't have the enough amount of time to do the product research, to get more products, to speak to suppliers, and maybe even build your own brand. So when you realize that, I'll be a lot financially better off by going full time onto Amazon, I think that's the right time. But like you said yourself, you need to have that buffer. You need to have some savings saved up, which wasn't a problem for me at the time. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell, in my opinion. Any last bits to add at all?
No, I think we've gone through a lot there. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yeah.
No, no. I think the next video we should do, it should be a little bit more away from Amazon. I think we have a lot to share just from our own experience about business, financing side of things, the mindset side of things, risk taking, overcoming of fear. I think there's a lot to discuss there as well. We touched some of these subjects here today, but I kind of wanted to still stick with Amazon FBA, so to speak, given the channel. But I think it would be good for us to do another video, maybe on your channel or my channel, about about the business side of things. Any business and any entrepreneur could get some value out of experienced sellers, so to speak. So that's pretty much it for today's, guys. I really hope you found it useful. Please, before I leave, please don't forget to check the links down below for Sajad's own YouTube channel and his Amazon FBA seller course as well, Amazon Wizard course, which I'm a part of as well. Best course on the UK market. So if you are serious about selling on Amazon, please don't forget to check the links down below. I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.